23rd, 2020 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting, and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Telfer?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Chair Sathoff?
Here. Will the clerk please inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes, Director Barry Pack, Kathy Stromberg, Taylor Paulson, Kathy Ortega, Carrie Hemphill, Scaro, Lindsay Peterson, Matt Shelby, Mike Wells, Ty Colandrello, and Tina Erickson.
Thank you, Lisa. With that, let's move to the public comment portion of the meeting. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comments to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the written comments that were received were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk please read the public comments that were received for the record?
The following comment was submitted by Kitty Martz, individual in long-term recovery from gambling on Oregon lottery products. Honorable Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack, and staff. In a recent legal sports betting article, your spokesperson stated that you are continuing to pursue adding a collegiate sports betting platform at a statewide level. Elected legislators were almost unanimously opposed to this effort in the last full session. The Oregon Council on Problem Gambling, Voices of Problem Gambling Recovery, and numerous experts testified in support of HB 4057, which would have prevented the lottery from offering collegiate sports gambling. The bill did not complete its cycle before the session abruptly ended. Attached are letters of support from these agencies and a gambling education flyer from the NCAA, which should be included in your meeting materials. It's confusing why you would think that wagering on students playing sports would fall under public good. These are literally children, people under the age of 21. They cannot legally purchase alcohol or tobacco products because they don't have fully developed decision-making systems in their brains. They are BIPOC individuals and kids who come from socioeconomically marginalized families and receive sports scholarships in an effort to get an education. They are subject to long days of training and academic demands. Few have the time to hold jobs. Some have families of their own. They are vulnerable to injury, to stress, to developing gambling disorders themselves, to having their sports performance leveraged. They are vulnerable to you. Please don't do this. It's one thing to listen to your Scoreboard account holders and your new partner DraftKings, who will tell you that you can increase revenues with the flip of a switch. I humbly ask that instead you make decisions based on the advice of problem gambling experts and wishes of Oregonians as represented by their legislators. And that concludes the public comment.
Thanks, Elisa. And I appreciate you reading those thoughtful comments from Ms. Martz. I know that she included some exhibits. I'm assuming the exhibits are posted as well with her comment. Is that right?
They will be right after the meeting, yes.
Thank you very much. With that, let's move to Commissioner Communications, and I'd like to open it up to see if any of the other commissioners have any comments or statements or things they would like to raise with the group. Hearing none, we'll move to the director's report.
Thank you, Chair Sathoff. Good morning, and good morning, commissioners, staff. I'm going to start my report today by introducing Lottery's new Chief Operations Officer, Ty Colandrello. Ty started on Monday, so she's still drinking from the fire hose, and has spent this week meeting the Lottery team, acclimating to both her in-person and work environments. Ty has more than 15 years of leadership and management experience, mostly in the operations sphere. She comes most recently from Nike, where she was a business operations director. She brings a human-centered approach to leadership and management, is flexible in her style, capable of balancing creative, outside-the-box thinking with clear analytics and data-driven decision-making. She will round out the experience and leadership style of both the executive team and the gaming operations senior management team, and help guide that part of the organization through our work on customer, employee, and digital experiences. Ty identifies as Korean American and is the first woman of color to serve on Lottery's executive team. And I'd ask you to join me in giving Ty a warm Lottery welcome, and perhaps invite her just to say a few words at this point.
Thank you, Barry. Ty, as chair of the commission, I really am so enthusiastic about you joining us. I wish that I could have had an opportunity to meet you face to face, but I've certainly looked at your resume and your background, and we are very, very lucky to have you. And with that, if you have anything you'd like to say, open it up for you.
Great. Thank you so much for that welcome. Really appreciate it, and good morning all. And of course, I'm excited to join the team as well and accepted this role because of the mission and the positive impact to Oregonians the lottery has. And I'm also excited and here to contribute to our strategy realization. And in my first 90 days, we'll lead with curiosity to really learn and understand how Go will modernize its operational approaches. So with that, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on the commission, or we can move on with the rest of Director Pack's report? Well, Ty, we look forward. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
No problem. Took me a minute to unmute. Ty, I look forward to the time where we can actually meet face to face, and you are joining an exceptional team. And I know you're going to enjoy it. And again, I look forward to the time when we can actually meet face to face again.
Thanks, Chris. I echo that, Ty. I hope that we'll have a chance to meet face to face and look forward to your work with the lottery. With that, Director Pack, do you want to continue with your report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. I want to talk a little bit about Game Touch terminals. The Monday following our last commission meeting, the first Game Touch 28 terminal was installed at the Safeway in Milton Freewater, kicking off the statewide installation of new lottery vending machines with an interactive 42-inch multimedia touchscreen. The GT28, because we have to have an acronym, can't possibly say Game Touch, displays 28 scratch-its and all draw games, allowing players to easily make their game selections. Most retail locations with player-operated kiosks will receive this terminal as a replacement for the current Lottery to Go terminal in the coming months. And not only did we add a new type of terminal, but this month we also added new retailer locations with Walmart to our portfolio. As part of the statewide installation, we're adding the self-service vending machines to 34 Walmart superstores across Oregon. And just this morning, I saw an email that says we have completed that work. So Walmart is up and running well ahead of the holiday season. Great work to all of the staff across the organization in getting that work done. Earlier this month, we kicked off our annual charitable fund drive. This being 2020, of course, we will need to get creative as we join all state agencies to help raise critical funds for the nearly 800 charitable organizations who benefit from the funds raised by state workers. Digital modernization isn't limited to game offerings. We're also embracing technology to improve the efficiency of our operations. Oh, wait, sorry, I skipped ahead. That didn't work. So here we go. Again, charitable organizations who benefit from funds raised by state workers. While our fundraising efforts may differ this year, in-person bake sales and rolling coffee carts would prove challenging, our commitment remains the same. Last year, we did very well, earning the 2019 Excellence in Achievement Award, and we are hoping this year can be as successful in helping those in need. Now we'll move on to some modernization. Speaking of working in new ways, Lottery rolled out a new collaboration tool this month, Microsoft Teams, that helps all employees share files, collectively edit documents, video conference, and organize communication around specific work efforts. Digital modernization isn't limited to game offerings. We're also embracing technology to improve the efficiency of our operations as well. While adoption of this new tool has been on our roadmap for some time, it is especially timely given the dramatic increase in remote work this year. With the quarterly sales update on the agenda, I'll refrain from saying too much on the sales front. I'll just say that tremendously proud of our staff. As an organization, we've navigated the many challenges presented to us this quarter and maintained a fairly healthy revenue stream. And to wrap up, I have two winner stories for you today. Christopher Sargent of Portland, a little over 2 years, in July 2018, the Plaid Pantry at the corner of North Greeley and Rosa Parks Way was in the news for a fire that nearly destroyed the convenience store. This month, however, they got news of a different type. In a turn of good fortune, officials at Plaid Pantry found out that the same store sold a $5.7 million jackpot Oregon's game Megabucks ticket to a regular customer. Christopher Sargent and his wife purchased the ticket on August 24th and simply forgot about it until a couple weeks ago. Quote, Plaid Pantry is thrilled to learn that one of our 104 Oregon stores sold the recent $5.7 million Megabucks ticket, said Jonathan Polonsky, CEO of Plaid Pantries, Inc. The store might have been considered by some to be an unlucky store, now has become our luckiest store. Congratulations to the winner from our over 700 Plaid employees. Polonsky said the money from the 1% retail selling bonus of $57,000 would be put back into Plaid Pantry stores and the employees. And then finally from Hermiston, a father-daughter visit was brilliant after the spur-of-the-moment gift of an Oregon Lottery Scratch-It. Earlier this week, Greg Peters decided he'd venture down from his home in Seattle to visit his daughter, Michaela Peters, in Hermiston. And this is one visit both dad and daughter will long remember. Peters has played Oregon Lottery Scratch-It since she was 18. Being the good dad he is, Greg bought his daughter a $5 brilliant Sapphire Scratch-It when they stopped at the Eastside Market in Hermiston. Dad said, "Here, I bought you this ticket," Peters said. The instructions on the ticket said if you find the gem, you win that prize. So I started scratching it and found a gem. Then I started seeing all these zeros. I handed the ticket to Dad and said, "We won $50,000. Peters became one of more than 140 people who have won jackpots playing Scratch-Its in the past 3 months. She said she read her horoscope a few days before getting the Scratch-It, and it said there would be lucky days ahead. And that concludes my report for this month, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Barry. That's great. Just on the charitable fund drive, I do recall that we got that award last year, and I just encourage the entire team to work hard again this year. It's a particularly needy year, and I don't know to what extent the commissioners are allowed to join your donation pool, but Barry, I'd be interested if you let me know. With that, I think we'll move to the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission in advance of the meeting. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on September 25th, 2020 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Elisa. With that, let's hear about the financial reports. And I know Kathy's on, and Director Pack, for the two of you. Are you ready with the financial reports?
Yes. Good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer, and I have the financial review as of September 2020, which is the first quarter of our fiscal year 2021. Turning to the first page, which is the operating statement for the month, we had a $1.4 million favorable revenue variance for the month. The commissions, I'm going to address that explanation on the next page when I get to the year-to-date, and we had a slight timing difference in the game vendor charges. We also had a $1.6 million favorable to budget net profit number. Going to the next page, which is the year-to-date operating statement, we were above budget on revenue by $912,000. And on the commission line, that variance was caused by when we did the budget this year, we converted from paying commissions on net revenue to dollars played. And when we did the budget, we had to make a guess as to what commission rates would be applicable. We gave it our best shot. We were off. I have not submitted this as a part of the quarterly budget review because it could turn around as we move through the months and as retailers move through the tiers. So I don't want to make another guess. I'd rather watch what happens and then possibly at the mid-year or later, if we need to make a correction, if it's still trending the same, go ahead and do that then. So it isn't a spending variance, it's an estimating variance is what I'll call it. We have a $558,000 favorable budget on the net profit line. Services and supplies have some minor variances. And I have the balance sheet for you as of September 30th. And with that, we also have the capital expenditure report since we are at the end of a quarter. And as Director Pack indicated, you are starting to see some spending on the Aurora equipment and system rollout, which accounted for $5.9 million of spending on the original $75.6 million budget. And you should see that trend continue throughout the year. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thanks, Kathy.
Kathy?
Questions or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
Kathy, I have a question on the uptick in allowance for doubtful accounts. If you look at the comparative balance sheet, the percentage
okay.
Yeah, can you explain why that percentage or why that uptick?
Hang on just a second. Let me get there. Sorry about that. I have to scroll.
No, I know. I scrolled ahead.
You know, Commissioner Telfer, I don't have a really good answer for you on that. It's a very good question. I am going to have to get back to you on that one. And I will try to do that by the end of the day today via email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Elisa, I have just a couple, just kind of observations. I want to know if I got this correct. Generally, it looks to me like while we're ahead on our budget, at least we're ahead on what we thought we would be doing this year. We're behind year over year, but it seems to me that with COVID, the good news is we're really doing a little better than we expected. Correct?
Yes, Chair Sathoff, that is correct. We, especially at the beginning of the month, you know, I think you had seen that we were running anywhere from 7 to 10% behind the year over year. We have in the last couple of weeks caught up, so it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues, but some of that, you know, well, that variance is really related to COVID.
Yeah. And just two other, don't want to jump ahead too far on either, but are we seeing any, I'm looking at the operating statement, are we seeing any trends in games? And so let me step back and see what I'm thinking here. This pandemic has been kind of a one-off, we hope, experience for all of us. And I'm wondering, to the extent it may not be, that we see this type of thing happening again in the future, if we're seeing any trends at all in lottery play. I sort of wondered, does the play change based on the situation we're in, and it may be too soon to have the team answer that, but I'd like to lodge that as a kind of a lessons learned from this year at some point. What did we notice about gameplay in the heart of a pandemic? And then my last question, and you can either answer or tell me, you'll get back to me on any of them, is do you think on the capital spend, are we on target for where we would expect to be at the end of the Q1 in this year?
Yes. First question, good question, interesting question, and I'm going to defer that to Lindsay Peterson, who will, I believe, she's on the call and will be speaking later. I don't know if she has any answers for you at this point, but I'm going to defer to her on that because she, much more than I, tracks individual trends on player behavior. Second question, yes, I do believe that we're on track. Everyone is very busy. There are a lot of things going on. And I do believe that in the coming months, you're going to see some of that spend come through.
Okay, great. With that, is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended September 30th, 2020 be approved for the record as presented today.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
And will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. And Director Pack and Kathy, do you want to do the quarterly budget now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take this, and Kathy will stick around for questions. As you'll recall, when we entered into this fiscal year, we recognized that there were so many unknowns that we could not budget for a typical budget, and we pared way back and brought to you a very conservative operating budget with the understanding that we would come back on a quarterly basis with updates as needed as circumstances, either positive in revenue or increases in expenditure requests, became apparent. And this is that first report back at the end of the first quarter. I am pleased to say that we are largely being able to manage through this most conservative budget. We have had some unexpected or unanticipated increase in costs, some that are related to our favorite timing differences of when bills come in from other agencies that we pay for, and then other unexpected increases. In each case, when one of the executive team came with a request to increase spend, they were asked to review budgets across the organization to see if they could find savings elsewhere to offset it. And by and large, we have done so, with the exception of about $70,000, as I recall, that we can more than absorb because of increased revenues that are coming in. The big change to the budget that I am requesting approval for is an increase in expenditures of $601,000 for the purchase of video lottery terminals. There's a memo in your packet from Lindsay Peterson that outlines the business reasons behind this, but being able to purchase these now advances our strategies and allows the lottery to take advantage of some significant discounts and savings that are currently being offered by the vendors, and allow us to maintain a diverse portfolio of terminals in the field. So I'm happy to answer any questions about either of those. Kathy can talk to you about the expenditure increases if you have questions on those details, but otherwise I recommend the commission approve an increase of $601,000 for the purchase of video lottery terminals. And those funds have already been held in reserve on the balance sheet in anticipation that we would be spending that money on these terminals. We just had planned on doing that in a later fiscal year.
Thank you, Barry. Questions or comments from the commission on this budget shift?
Barry, I have a question. I don't have a problem with the capital purchase, but what is the interagency demands that you're referring to that are straining our budget.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Telfer. You'll recall in the budget that we pay for Department of Administrative Services. We pay for Governor's Office staff in an intergovernment agreement. Some of those things, Secretary of State charges, Treasury charges, those are all charges that we don't control, and sometimes they come in on a regular billing cycle, and sometimes they come in later than we expected, and we have to budget for them in a period we weren't anticipating.
So that's the timing difference that you're referring to.
Exactly.
So we should charge them the quarter? 25 cents?
We'll charge them interest, yes.
Okay.
Chris, we're going to nominate you to go and do that for us with them, negotiate that.
Be happy to.
Any other questions or comments? Director and team, I really want to tell you, I think your shift in budgeting and how you're approaching it this year is working really well. I know I'm appreciating the transparency and the ongoing sort of discussion. It looks like you've done a nice job, however, on budgeting, because we're really just accelerating an amount that we already planned for. With that, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 21 quarterly budget rebalance?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission approve the changes to the fiscal year 21 budget as presented in the quarterly budget rebalance memorandums presented today.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. Director Pack, let's talk about the major procurement with IMARC's group.
I'll actually invite Chris Scaro to walk us through that.
Great.
Chris, you there?
Barry, Chris doesn't do the major procurement.
Is that me?
Yes.
Yep, that's you.
Well, how about that?
Try,
Sorry.
that was you trying to delegate in real time, huh?
I was jumping to rules. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. That's okay.
Not enough coffee this morning. All right. So this is a follow-up. Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies. This is a follow-up to last meeting's discussion around procurements for providing second chance drawing services. As you'll recall, our contract with IGT, who has several subcontractors, is expiring. We've agreed that we want to bring customer-facing components of that work in-house, but that we will still need some technical services around data management and the website that we would like to procure directly with IMARCs, who has been one of the subcontractors providing these services for a number of years. That
Great.
is the nature of it. It is a major procurement because it does address the outcome of our games, and I'm happy to answer additional questions. Otherwise, I would recommend approval to enter into a major procurement with IMARCs.
Thank you. And I do know we talked about this at the last meeting. If it wasn't the last meeting, we certainly have talked about this. And I just want, my memory is we're bringing some of the customer experience, some of the customer work internal and breaking off this other work and going with IMARC for it is how I understand what we're doing here.
That's correct.
Great.
And
Questions?
this is
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. This is
That's
part
right.
of our work to reduce some of the friction and pain points for our players in entering their non-winning tickets into the second chance drawings. This will allow the convenience app to scan the barcode and enter the numbers rather than have the players hand key them in.
Great. Anything that,
All part of that overall improvement of the customer experience.
yeah, I was just going to say anything that helps to improve their experience is a good thing. So with that, unless there are other questions or comments, is there a motion to approve the request to enter into a major procurement?
I move that at the Oregon State Lottery Commission, I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission authorized the director of the Oregon Lottery to enter into a major procurement with imarksgroup.com LLC for the purpose of creating second chance drawing entry files and to provide non-customer facing technical support, maintenance, and data management services.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. And now we will move to Chris Scarrow on rulemaking.
Okay, yes, I'm ready for this one. Thank you, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Chris Scarrow, and I'm the Rules and Policy Analyst at the Lottery. We've got two rulemaking items on the agenda today. First up, I'm going to update you about the rulemaking process for OAR 177-040-0049. You may recall this rule is currently in effect as a temporary rule, and it explains our management of our video lottery terminals during the current COVID state of emergency. Specifically, it ensures that our VLTs are operated in compliance with whatever public health guidance is in effect at the various phases of reopening pertaining to VLTs. So we've completed the permanent rulemaking process for this rule, and I've provided information about the process in the meeting materials today in the rulemaking report. But just briefly for the record, I'll note that we filed notice on September 18th of 2020. We notified interested parties, including our video lottery retailers who are subject to this rule. We had a 4-week written comment period and held a public hearing over Zoom. During the public rulemaking process, we did receive one written comment that I will just briefly summarize for the record. The comment was from a video retailer who wanted us to understand the challenges of enforcing public health guidelines. And this particular retailer is very committed to remaining in compliance and hopes that video can remain operational during the public health emergency. I did provide the comment to the commission previously, so hopefully you had a chance to see that. Also in the meeting materials, you and our audience can see the final rule text. The rule is unchanged from the temporary rule that is currently in effect. The director has reviewed the rule and considered all public comment, and he does recommend adoption of the rule as it's reflected in your materials today to take effect on November 10th. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, if you want to move to the motion.
Chris, I do have a question regarding that one comment from a retailer. I mean, I'm not really sure what our response was, but what does the lottery do, if anything, if in fact you had somebody coming into a retail operation who refused to wear a mask, and the retailer obviously has to have them leave? I mean, you know, or can we just turn off the machine? I mean, what is the lottery's obligation there?
Chris, you want me to take that?
Sure.
So Commissioner Telfer, our obligation on the guidance from OHA and under the governor's executive order is to work with retailers in an educational first capacity to understand how best to implement the physical distancing requirements of players and terminals and the sanitation requirements between play at a terminal. We respond to community complaints that come in from players or patrons of a bar or restaurant. Mostly the complaints that we hear about is around sanitation or lack of physical distancing or mask wearing. We don't really have the authority to require retailers to, you know, kick someone out who's not wearing a mask, although they have that authority under other agency, under OSHA guidelines. Our work is really around helping them figure out how to space the terminals safely and then to make sure they're sanitizing in between play. We do have an escalation protocol in place that has been shared with all retailers, where if we get multiple complaints and the retailer is not responding appropriately, we can move to shut terminals down for periods of time and ultimately could end up to a contract termination. But I'm happy to report that while complaints are continuing to come in, we have, as of today, I believe, very few, if any, repeat complaints about a retailer. Most retailers respond very quickly to any complaints that come in and are offered to help them figure out how to manage the protocols appropriately. They're very, very much wanting to be in compliance and stay open for business.
Okay, so thank you, Barry. So it is complaints are driven by users, not the retailer.
Yes. Although
Okay.
I will say we've had some retailers rat on each other. So.
Oh, really?
So-and-so isn't making them wear masks across the street, and I am.
Don't love 2020.
Yep.
Director Pack, this is Commissioner Wilcox. I have a question regarding Commissioner Telfer's question. I'm just wondering how many customer complaints have actually come into the lottery, or an estimation.
Yes, Commissioner Wilcox, I can tell you here in just a second, hopefully. Bear with me a second. We have had a total of 98 COVID-related concerns identified by the community.
So that sounds pretty remarkable in terms of how many retailers we have and how many VLTs and whatnot. So thank you for that information.
Yeah, it's a very low number.
Mm-hmm. And Barry, on that includes mostly customers complaining, but it would include if a retailer was complaining about another retailer. So that's a total number, right?
That is total, yes.
Yeah, kind of amazing.
Yeah, we are seeing upticks. It kind of depends on the day of the week. I think Mondays are pretty busy days. People come back in after the weekend and have some complaints, and then it quiets down during the week. And then, just sort of depending on the period of time, but it's generally pretty manageable at this point.
Nice.
And I should just thank the staff who've worked so hard to help these retailers get up and running and maintain operations.
Mm-hmm. All right. With that, is there a motion to adopt the proposed rulemaking?
I move that OAR 177-040-0049 be adopted as presented in the meeting materials today, to be effective on November 10th, 2020, upon expiration of the temporary rule.
Thanks, Julie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Aye.
Chair Sathoff?
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. Thank you. Chris, do you want to talk a little bit now about the new rule, the restriction of access to lottery premises?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One other rulemaking item, just want to inform you about a draft proposed rule that the lottery would like to start the rulemaking process on and open for public comment. This rule is OAR 177-010-0405, is regarding those very rare situations when lottery may need to restrict a person's access to the lottery for security and safety reasons. Mike Wells, our AD for security, has recommended having a written process in place to ensure consistency for lottery staff and also to provide certain protections for individuals who might be subject to a restriction. The proposed rule would explain the types of conduct that might give rise to having your access restricted. It ensures that a person receives written notice and an opportunity to appeal, and it provides for an internal process to continually review whether the restriction continues to be needed. So we've got the draft rule in your meeting materials today, so our audience and the public can see that. And we'd like to just open it up for comment, and then I'd plan to come back to you in December on this one.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, Commissioner Wilcox, I guess I have a few for Mike Wells if he's there. Just to explain a little bit more about what conduct or what's going to stop a patron from using lottery machines.
Yeah, Commissioner, this is not actually referring directly to machines. It's going to be for our premises. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. I kind of misspoke there. I'm sorry. Yeah, what kinds of things would restrict them from having access to a premises?
are you referring to like what type of conduct would restrict them?
Yeah, I specifically want to know how you're going to restrict access. Just an example of conduct.
Yeah, so we're looking at threats to lottery employees or violent conduct, for example. So when our lobby is open, if we have an occasion where somebody is behaving in that manner that we feel is a threat to the safety of either employees or other patrons, that this would give us a process to not only notify them, but if we have them come back on the premises, it would be an official notification to them that they're restricted, so law enforcement could take action.
So then we'd have a criminal trespass
exactly
type of a violation. Okay, thank you very much. That I understand it a little better now.
And there is, in the rule there, it does outline what some of those specific conduct that we are addressing is listed in the rule.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if I can just jump in here real quick, sorry, Madam Chair, just to clarify
ahead.
that what we're talking about is restricting access to lottery headquarters or the Wilsonville or other lottery operated facilities. We're not talking about retailer locations.
Yeah, I understand that now. I was kind of reading into it too much. Thank you.
And do I assume that we have had some experience with this? And as such, obviously, if somebody is misbehaving in our property, we've and have had that happen, we've escorted them out or done something. So this is sort of a way of providing notice to the public that we have a process and we will restrict them. And if they are behaving badly, they will be restricted going forward in time. Correct?
Yes, that's right. I also wanted to say, Chair Sathoff, you're getting to the issue of this is existing authority we have. This isn't like new authority. It's more like providing a transparent process. This is actually how some other state agencies have handled this. We're just bringing some transparency since we are a public body. We're just bringing some transparency to the process, but this wouldn't necessarily be a new type of authority, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where I was headed with it, Chris. Thank you. And I guess what I would say is, particularly because the type of facility we are, I can see where the public might feel they have more rights to do what they want to do in our open areas than maybe with other facilities like the Department of Justice or something like that. So I applaud the providing the transparency and the notice to the public.
Thank you.
And we're not adopting this, so this will come back to us after the comment period and so on, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Great. If there are no more comments or questions about this, we'll move to staff updates with Tina Erickson, Carrie Hemphill, and Lindsay Peterson, and anyone else who should be stepping up at this point? Okay, I'm seeing it. I don't know if the rest of you are, but I'm seeing the presentation.
Great. Good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Tina Erickson, and I am the Lottery Product Portfolio Manager. So this morning, we're going to be going over our product performance updates for all of our products, and Lindsay is driving for me. So Lindsay, if you could go to the first slides.
Hold up, Tina. It's not moving on me.
It's not reacting.
No, hold on just a second. Here, I'm here. We did a run through too, so let's give this. We might have to do it this way.
I've had, oh, there we go. It seems to be moving now.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you'll go to the next slide.
Is that good?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So this morning, I really wanted to share again. Last month, I shared with you the progress that we were making on the Aurora project. This again is a high-level schedule. Nothing has moved there except we have been having equipment continue to deploy throughout the state. And as Barry shared this morning, we completed all of the installs at our Walmart locations, which is very exciting for us as they are a new retailer. So that included 34 locations. These are a Game Touch 20 or a GT 20. So they are going to be smaller in size to meet their Walmart standards. So they don't have quite as big of a touch screen as what Barry had shared earlier this morning on. And they display 20 games for our Scratch It product. Right now, we've got 50% deployment. When I looked at the numbers this morning, we have about 1,600 or more retailers that have the new retail compact terminals. And these are the POS terminals that they have. And then we have installed over 160 of our Game Touch equipment. The next thing on this list, sorry, Lindsay, I just back to this. We've got system conversion testing, which is going to start next month. I can't believe, I guess in 2 weeks, we're going to be starting doing that. And part of that is really some user acceptance testing as well. For the Aurora system, there are a lot of applications that internal lottery staff will be using. And so this will give smaller groups of different business units the opportunity to test and make sure that they understand the applications before it gets all rolled out to a larger business unit groups in February. All right, Lindsay, next slide. Now we're down to sharing what the sales are going to be or have been over this last quarter. So for Scratch Its, and this kind of goes and maybe answers a little bit of the question that you had, Madam Chair. In terms of gameplay, during COVID, we did see with the shutdown of our video lottery retailers, a huge surge in Scratch. And so we, in fact, were having a difficult time even trying to keep up as games were selling out quickly. What we have seen as the retailers that offer video lottery have reopened, sales are starting to come back down. They're not, 100% year over year, but now they're about 25% year over year. So we are seeing some residual, I think, of play as people are being able to play video, but Scratch sales still are a little bit high. The last few weeks, we've been seeing over 30% year over year, which is good. A couple of things I wanted to note.
Tina,
yes.
Tina, on that, my question was one step deeper, and that is the type within, obviously if the VLTs aren't open, they can't play the VLTs, but within those things that were available to them, were we seeing any trends? And I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm asking if the team thinks about that, so that at some point when we do our lessons learned from the pandemic, we
Sure.
might be able to think about going forward in time if this extends or if we have another one of these. So sorry.
Exactly. Oh, that's good. Thank you for the clarification. Going back to our holiday games, we actually launched them this month. And again, we offer a variety of price points. So that way customers can play from a $1 clear up to a $20 game. And you're going to see marketing efforts that are going to begin probably around the Thanksgiving timeframe. For Keno, sales are pretty much even with where we were year over year. Again, this graph is showing the dip when our restaurants, bars, limited menu retailers were closed. And at that time, we did see sales switch from those locations over into our convenience, grocery convenience with gas. And so now as the bars, restaurants have opened, things are shifting back. But we aren't seeing anything unusual, as you can see with our sales and our forecasts. The last slide that I have for you today is really on our Jackpot games. And no notable Jackpot roll-ups, so our sales are down. Again, these games are really driven by how high jackpots are. So right now, with the pandemic and sales being less than what they would have normally been, we are seeing that downturn. A couple of things that I did want to note: the muscle group, which oversees Powerball, is going to be adding a third drawing in late summer. So the draws would be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, which really aligns with what our Oregon Games Megabucks draws are, because they are also on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And the reason that they're really wanting to do this is to help see some sales increase in the Powerball game. And then that way, hopefully, see sales increase, see some increase in our jackpot amounts. We don't see this to be a huge change for us. The communication to our customer would be relatively easy, and it would just take a few changes in the system to be able to enable that Monday draw. There's also going to be some changes on our digital and marketing updates, but nothing extreme to report there.
Well, if they're drawing on the same days as our Megabucks, do you guys think there's going to be any degradation in the Megabucks play on those days, or do we think overall it just adds to the market share?
I think, that's one thing that we will monitor. Right now we have a what we call it is a jackpot trio. So we actually have a button on the terminals that bundle Powerball, Mega Millions, and Megabucks. So right now, Powerball and Megabucks have draws that happen on Wednesday and Saturday as it is. We haven't seen degradation, but it is something that we will monitor.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, I think Lindsay, you're next.
I am. I was having some technical issues. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Lindsay Peterson. I'm the manager for the gaming products portfolio at the lottery. I'm going to give you a quick video products update this morning. Video lottery sales over the past few weeks have really been strengthening. We have 95% of our retailers actively selling and nearly 90% of our VLTs active since the COVID shutdown. So we're getting back up to really strong levels. And in fact, October 10th was the first week since the COVID shutdown, since March, that we've had a stronger year-over-year sales. It was the 13th best week, and it was over $20 million. So we are seeing some recovery, signs of recovery. This is also something that casinos nationwide are seeing. So this is not just Oregon, it's it's the industry as a whole. Consumer confidence index is up, gambling sales are strong. So I think with other entertainment activities being limited, things like theaters and concerts and stuff like that, I think discretionary dollars are being used more on gambling. So strength there. But as a reminder, when we look from March through October and compare it to last year, we're still at only 60% of last year's revenue. So that's kind of the major COVID timeframe. So we're still digging out of our hole, but we are seeing some positive uptick in sales. One of the things that we have started doing again was games management. We had stopped launching games in the middle of COVID during the shutdown, and we're really focused on just getting things back up and running. But we did launch 2 new games. They're actually nostalgic games that players remember from a very long time ago. And we brought them onto the newer products, launched them, and they're actually bringing up the performance very well on a couple of model terminals that were among our lower performers. So games management is a positive thing for us right now. And then our VLT procurement activities have resumed, and we just talked a little bit about that during the budget exception. We do have a couple of obsolete models in the field that we have to get out to take advantage of some of the new system things that we'll be doing. So we're working to get those out of the field over time. So today's exception was geared towards that particular work. And then just a reminder that our system, we're getting ready to move to a new baseline for our intelligent gaming system. We're going to baseline 8, which is scheduled to go live in December. And then what that really does is give us the infrastructure to start moving towards value add features. So ticket in, ticket out capability on our product, the RG, responsible gaming module we've been talking about for a while, and eventually progressive. We hope within the next 12 to 18 months, we'll have these things live. So that's a really quick update. Chair Sathoff, I don't know if any of that covered some of your questions. I will talk about games specifically. We did try to look at content details, and our players, video lottery players, tend to be creatures of habit. So what they were playing before and what they're playing now is largely the same. So they came right back into their kind of their old trends and their old favorites. Obviously, with new content in the market, they are trying that. But other than those trends, I don't think we have a lot lately to share, but we'll certainly go back and have a look at some more details on that. Any video lottery questions from the group?
None for me. And thanks for telling me that I have no clue how my video just went on, but I thank you for letting me know. This is interesting. I will say one of the points you made is really interesting to me, that when it's come back, people are going back to the games they played before, but the 2 that we introduced were nostalgic. And that's interesting to me. That, I mean, I think it's kind of, that does not surprise me that people would be more interested in playing games that bring fond memories of the past in some ways.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I agree. And we've actually had quite a bit of success with nostalgic themes. And we did some surveying, and the 2 games we brought back were games that players have been asking about over and over. They've been gone for years, and they came back and just hit the ground running. So I agree, there is definitely that brighter days behind us that people are looking for to bring forward, I think. So it's good news.
Okay. All right, questions or comments, or we'll move on to Scoreboard, I guess.
Okay. Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Carrie Hempel, Sports Betting Product Manager. I'm here to present the Scoreboard product update. Before I get into the Q1 specifics, I do want to highlight that Scoreboard recently hit its 1-year anniversary on October 16th. Since that time, it has seen we have 6.3 million wagers, but it's actually now over 7 million wagers placed. So exciting times. But focusing on Q1, Scoreboard saw significant growth with the return of the major American sports, specifically NBA, MLB, and NFL. The 6.35% margin during Q1 was slightly lower than forecasted at 8%, but even with that, the GGR and turnover ended the quarter a bit higher than projected. In fact, Q1 saw a 2.4 million GGR increase over Q4. In looking at the numbers, the last quarter brought in over 2 million wagers, with the top 5 sports broken down by number of bets being basketball, baseball, soccer, football, and MMA. Leading the way was basketball with 37% of the turnover in the quarter. NBA margins were slightly thin, negatively impacted by the Trailblazers run and marquee favorites hitting at a high rate. Baseball was next with great turnover and a solid margin at 7.82%. NFL, with only 3 weekends in this past quarter, posted outstanding turnover numbers, but it did have a small loss to GGR. That loss in NFL was attributed to marquee favorites hitting often and a huge uptick in scoring, making the over a winner at a very high rate. Ancillary sports continue to perform well. We're seeing good movement in MMA, ice hockey, tennis, and golf. All of them were great in the quarter, taking some of the pressure off the thinner margins that we had with the NBA and NFL. The average bet was $32, and we saw over 25,000 distinct bettors engaged with the product. This was more than double that of Q4's numbers. In addition, we saw over 8,000 new registrations into Scoreboard, which is more than 5 times the amount of registrations we saw in Q4. The key point of time in the last quarter was September, which we saw record highs in numerous areas, including number of bets and turnover. September had the highest turnover recorded this year at over $26 million, with August falling a close second at over $25 million. In addition, September 27th specifically was the second highest individual turnover date since go live at 2.1 million. This was just 300,000 short of the Super Bowl. September finally brought in the second highest amount of unique active players. Again, that was just right behind the Super Bowl earlier this year in February. In terms of wagers, Scoreboard saw very high numbers on singles, but not a very good margin. So looking ahead, we will look to promote parlays to help out with that. There was a steady increase in parlay turnover, which historically will have a much higher margin, but combined results with NBA and NFL weaken those margins below expected norms. The expectation is that it will bounce back and that the turnover increase is a very good sign. So overall, it was a very good quarter, largely driven by a really positive September. But there is room for improvement. Getting the parlay margins up where they should be and holding steady on the singles should put us in a position to grow GGR in Q2. Looking ahead at October through December, NFL turnover numbers are great to date, and we would expect to see those continue with improving margins and increased GGR. Major League Baseball World Series is underway and should attract a high level of betting interest to start the quarter. And NBA and NHL are tentatively scheduled to restart January 1st. This will miss the next quarter, but it'll get us to a great start for the new year. Finally, college sports activity has returned, including the Pac-12 schedule, which is ramping up. While we are not approved to offer collegiate wagers on Scoreboard at this time, I do recognize that customer sentiment continues to indicate disappointment that Scoreboard does not offer any type of collegiate wagering, and that the addition of college sports would be a huge boost to the quarter and moving forward into the new year. That is the Scoreboard recap. Any questions from the group?
I hesitate to get too optimistic, but a nice report on Scoreboard. feeling a little bit better about that. Any comments? It looks to me from your report that you're really attributing that uptick with the return of major sports around the nation in September. Any other reasons you think we're seeing an uptick? Are we solving some of the customer issues?
Yes, we did. We had a mobile app update in this past August, which solved a lot of the customer experience problems that we were having. It cleaned up a lot of the geo-check, muddied a little bit of their experience. So customer experience has tremendously improved since about the beginning of August. And I think that has helped tremendously. But I would agree with you that the return of American sports has largely been the impact of having players come back in and having seen new players and just more wagers. But the ancillary sports continue to perform well. MMA and tennis have a large following as well.
Thanks, Carrie. Other questions or comments from the commission? I will just say that I certainly agree with one of the assessments. When friends, family, colleagues do talk to me about lottery, they always talk about our sports betting, and they always follow by saying, when are you going to get college betting? So we'll see.
Yeah.
The same refrain. Thank you. That concludes, I think, the staff updates. And if there are no further questions or comments, I'll open this up if there is any other business from the commission or the leadership. Okay, hearing none. This concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is currently scheduled on November 20. And I want to thank you all for attending the meeting today, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Great weekend. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.